Hello there, welcome back to another thoughts and opinions based video on AMC Entertainment. Because actually we are seeing a lot of good things for AMC in the past week. The last 5 days were positive. We are up 112% in the past month, so things are looking good for AMC. Obviously the past 5 days is bringing us up, but towards the end of week we are actually seeing some sell-off action from the 18th of March up until the Friday. So of course over a course of 2 days we were down by about 3%. No, that's not the largest decrease that we could have seen, but it is a decrease nonetheless. From the highs on Friday to the lows at market close, we can see that the share price actually went down by a further 1.4%. So again, that is not too significant, but it is a drop once more. The question is, what's going on with AMC? Should you buy it now? Should you be concerned, or should you avoid? Well, all of my opinions are coming up in this video, so do make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already, because we talk about AMC and many other stocks every single day. Tomorrow is a Sunday, so we're giving my personal opinions in that video. Again, that is another reason to subscribe to the channel. But now that I've mentioned that, let's jump in and look at AMC in the past week and note some things which you may want to know. So looking at the charts here, we can see that AMC, of course, over the past few days has seen a lot of action. Mainly from this dip point here, we can see that AMC's share price has been rising, and that was to be expected. This is because we had that article on Reddit which mentioned the fact that a lot of people for both AMC and GME actually were holding their shares. So whilst the stock was dead for a while, people were thinking that not much is going on. People are thinking that, oh, because we have come down from the highs, the majority of people have sold. And you know what, guys, I'm going to say it, I think that was a fair thing to think, right? What we have seen with AMC and GME for that matter is not really like anything that we have seen in the market before. It was unpredictable, and of course everybody was just guessing as to what happened. But again, then we had that Reddit article come out mentioning the fact that most people actually were still holding their AMC, were still holding their GME. I think this really sparked a lot of interest once more in AMC in this instance, as people realised, actually, this is not over. If it was over, of course, people would have sold off, but the fact that, a lot of people are still holding this stock does give us an opportunity. It does give us a future to send the share price up even more. And I think that at that point, people got very, very optimistic and wanted to see the share price rocket, which is acceptable and understandable. I can see why, but of course, subsequently, a lot more people bought into AMC. And for that reason, from the lows that we are seeing down here, we can see the big increase that we have seen in the past few days. So realistically, the past month or so, like I have mentioned, up over 100%, and now things are leveling out. So once more, look at this one on the 1-day charts. The past 2 or 3 days have been pretty flat. We can see that initially on the Wednesday, not much happened at all. The candlestick was in the green, but not by very much. Ultimately, the wick to both the upside and the downside wasn't very steep at all, so the highs and the lows of the day weren't even too prominent. Of course, mainly though, we were pushing towards the low side, as we can see the low wick on the candle is sticking out, so a bit of selling pressure coming into the share price. Now moving into the next day, which was Thursday, we saw a fairly even candle similar to the pattern that we have seen before actually, where the wick at the bottom was actually slightly worse than the one at the top, so it also showed a bit more selling pressure. Furthermore, this led the candle to be red for the day, but obviously not by very much. The body for the candle isn't very stable, but even then we can see that it's not too much to the downside, which is okay in my opinion. And this led on to what we saw on Friday. We saw a candlestick which was to the downside, and we can see that the wick on the candlestick was very low indeed. Now the upside wick was barely even noticeable, as we can't even see it on the 1-day charts here. I think that shows that obviously the highs of the day weren't too prevalent in relation to the lows. So because of that, we can see that the motion of the stock over the past few days has been very stark. It has mainly been moving down, but even so, not even by very much. If we look at the bodies on the candles of previous days of notable action, we can see that back here we saw a very steep candlestick, and the body of the candle was quite thick. Same can be said for all of these days around here. That is one thing that the stock does have in common: relatively large moves. Whether that be to the upside or to the downside, moves are large when it does come to AMC. But obviously in the past few days, the moves have not been too steep at all. In fact, the stock has barely even moved whatsoever. If we do go back to that chart, we can see that the share price is barely even down this week. From the lows of the week, from the highs of the week at this point here on the Thursday to the lows, again, we are looking at a decrease of about 3.6%. And by the way, I know that people are going to be talking about this period here. I want to focus specifically on what has happened from Thursday because I think that is the most interesting part for AMC stock. And I think that is the past 2 or 3 days that have got a lot of people worried. So again, looking at that, we haven't actually seen too much action, but looking at the actual charts on the Yahoo Finance, we can see something which is also very important and noteworthy. And this is something which isn't spoken about too much, but it is actually quite significant. It is something called volume. Now, I'm sure a lot of you people are going to be aware of what volume is, but if you don't know what volume is, it's basically the amount of shares traded in a specific day in this instance. So we can focus on volume for the week, volume for the hour, and all that kind of stuff, but just for the purpose of simplicity, we're going to focus on volume by the day in this video, or at least for the most part of it. So obviously for volume for AMC, as to be expected, it has been quite high for the past few months. Because volume is basically when people are buying or selling the stock, so it shows here on the charts. Highs for volume were at about over 1.2 billion, and we can see that volume has steadily been stepping down ever since. That is to be expected. Now at this low point here where the stock price kind of died for a while, or at least remained kind of dormant, we can see that volume was quite low, especially in comparison to the first push in price. Volume up here of 152 million, then going down to about 55 million, 46, 61, 38. We can see the overall trend and the theme. Volume was quite low, which basically meant nobody was doing anything with the share price. And of course, that is what came out in the article, the fact that volume was low, so basically nothing was really happening. Now, some people were selling out with the shares, some people were probably buying it as well, and I think that is okay. I think it is bound to be true that with stocks, people are going to sell them when they want to, and people are going to buy them when they want to, no matter what the overall market is doing, or no matter what the catalyst behind the stock is. But with this stock, and with GME as well, one thing that we know is that these aren't like your traditional stocks. These don't really have catalysts other than people on the internet pushing them. And subsequently, you could argue that the following behind both stocks is stronger than what we have seen in other stocks, or at least more realistic stocks, if you will, where the company's share price is motivated by earnings and whatnot. I think that is important to note. So because the community behind this one is quite strong, I think that has led to a lot of people's holding in that time period. I think we could be coming up to another time period of holding right now. So volume we can see was quite low there. If we do compare that volume to what we have seen in the past 2 or 3 days, volume down here was 125 million. So that is quite high in relation to the lows of 38 million that we saw previously, but it is quite low. Volume stepping down here to 73.5 million, and then actually going up the next day to 121 million. Then it went all the way up to 152 million, but overall volume is not that steep in comparison to the high points and the low points that we have been seeing. If we look at volume on this previous day where we saw a green candlestick, a very steep one, volume was about 277 million. So it was basically double, if not more, what it was on the first red day that we saw. So what does this show to me? Well, in my opinion, guys, I think this is important and I think this is noteworthy. It shows that when the stock is going down, a lot of people don't necessarily panic. I think it's okay if people panic, it honestly is. I think it's okay if people want to take profits, it's okay no matter what people want to do. But regardless, like I have said, people will be buying in, people will be selling out, but the majority of people that are here in the comment section, and I do occasionally peruse Wall Street Bets, the amount of people that are here wanting to hold this one, wanting to see it rocket, is phenomenal. And this has been reflected in the share price, and I think that is important. So I do believe that a lot of potential is still in the stock for the next week. I think that is important to note. We're going to talk more about some more catalysts that we could have in the next week in tomorrow's episode, because I am giving my forecast and predictions then. So thank you so much for joining me for this one. I thought I'd just give you an opinion on what we have seen in the past week. I don't think it is too bad, guys, honestly. I think that this stock is not over right now. I think if it is over, it is too soon to say. But the majority of people, from what we can tell by the numbers, and of course that is the facts, not the opinion, well it kind of is opinion as well, but the facts are saying that the volume is low, and my opinion subsequently is that people are still holding. So I think it is too soon to say that this one is over. I think there is still a lot of potential for it in the next week, and that is my opinion. But if you do want to hear what I think going forwards into the next week, do make sure to watch tomorrow's episode, as all will be revealed then. Goodbye, I will see you soon.